Hi, I'm Zank from Bennett Data Science, and I'm here this morning presenting the COVID-19 recovery graphs. These graphs show how the virus is progressing across countries with more than 350 deaths, and specifically they show the flattening of the curve in a very intuitive way that allows us to see where we've been and provide clues to the future. So we're going to go over the three different views. There are total deaths, which is what you see here, the death rate, and then the raw data that backs up these graphs. So if we take the United States for an example, you see a very, very slow growth where the number of deaths is very small in the beginning and then a rapid growth phase in the middle between these two gray lines. The center gray line represents where I believe the middle course of the virus is from start to finish. And then there's this end region, which we call flattening the curve at the top. And this means that there are no new deaths up here. As this curve is flattened, it means day to day there's no change. So the United States is still in this rapid growth phase with over 40,000 deaths today. The data is current as of Sunday, April 19th. We see that Italy, and we've heard this in the news, has gone past this rapid growth phase and is starting to level off. If I mouse over, I can see the number of deaths, which is also up in the title. As of the latest date, the data was received. We use data from Johns Hopkins, and we pull every couple hours to make sure that we're always within a few hours of being current with the data that they're sharing with the world. We can see that, again, Spain is also seeing some flattening of the curve. France is up here as well, although when we dive into the raw data, there are a lot more details to see here. United Kingdom is still in that rapid growth phase where there are many more deaths day to day. Belgium, again, is getting past that rapid growth phase. We see that Iran has gone way past this rapid growth and are in this flattening phase. When we get to the raw data, again, there's quite a bit more to see there. China, we thought, had reached this flattening phase, and then they went right back to this rapid growth phase. And in the raw data, we'll see exactly why that's happening. They are reporting a very small number of deaths compared to the population of the country, and especially when we thought that they had flattened off at the top. Why are they coming back now? Germany just getting out of that rapid growth phase. We can go down and look at all the different countries. As we get less and less data, there's a bit more noise to the signal that we have that we'll see in the raw data. This is meant to be a single view where we can understand if there is, if a country is in that initial stage, the rapid growth phase, or that flattening at the top. So let's go over and look at what I think is perhaps the more important view. It's the death rate. If we look at the three regions now, from, excuse me, on the far left, we have a very slow death rate. In the middle, there's a much greater death rate. And at the end, the death rate goes down to zero. Well, what does this mean? What is a death rate? This is the number of new deaths per day. So this rate, when it's at the very peak, means that today, compared to yesterday, there were a lot more deaths. If we have a day-over-day death rate equal to zero, that means no one new died from COVID-19 today. This is the goal. In the beginning, the death rate is very, very small. So today versus yesterday, there may only be a few new deaths due to COVID-19. At the peak, we see a whole lot more deaths per day than the day before. And then as this number drops down and goes to zero, COVID-19 is not affecting this particular country anymore. And this is just a different way of representing the same data over here in total deaths. So it's really when we see the progress go down the far side of this curve and really start to drop down to zero, the death rate is this very, very intuitive way of understanding that a country has beaten COVID-19 and is starting to see fewer and fewer deaths from COVID-19. And we thought that, again, that China was all the way over here and we're seeing almost no new deaths per day, maybe one or two for quite some time. And let's go over into the raw data. So let's just go back and look at the colors for a moment. The total deaths are in blue. The death rate here is in orange. And if I put them both together and look at how countries are actually faring, you see that you can actually see the reason why I chose to use this orange curve as the way I'm understanding the progression of COVID-19 for countries. Because the blue curve doesn't look as though it tells the whole story. You can see for Italy, they had very, very low death rate in the beginning. And then on the blue curve, it goes up and up and up, and it appears like it's just going up. Like, when is it ever going to table off at the top? Well, we saw a slowing back, let's see, what's the peak there? 826 new deaths per day on March 29th. And then it slowed. And then we're seeing something that is troubling. It would be best if this curve went up and then dropped as quickly as possible. We want this orange curve now, the death rate, to go as low as it can to zero. We want that to happen as quickly as possible. So when we see this happening more slowly, in other words, the deaths went from 579 to 570, so that dropped by 9, and then it dropped by 6, and then it dropped by only 3. So day over day, they had only 3 fewer deaths as the day before. And that's not where we want to be. We want these deaths to be dropping very quickly day over day. Spain had a very steep increase in death rate, and now it went to a maximum back on right around March 31st at the end of the month, and then you see it drop down, but much more slowly than it came on. And it's a good sign that this is dropping down, because that is the actual flattening of the blue curve. As the blue curve gets flatter, this orange curve goes down to zero. Something that's a bit troubling, there are some countries that reach a maximum and they start to drop off, which is exactly what we want to see. We want to see the number of deaths per day, the death rate, this orange curve. We want to see this go down to zero. And what we're seeing is that for some cases it's coming back up. Now, we can guess why that might be. We're not sure. That could be a measurement change. Different countries are attributing COVID-19 deaths to deaths in different ways. It could be from social distancing or physical distancing, and it could also be perhaps people aren't staying home. I really don't know. We don't have a lot of data behind these graphs to understand why these things are happening. I'm just showing that they're happening. This is all in the past. We're not forecasting here at all. Imagine trying to forecast in Iran where we see a peak here of 141 new deaths per day, and then it drops, and then we think maybe it's going to keep dropping, and then it goes back up, and then down, and then back up again. China had a maximum of 136 new deaths per day on February 15th, and then they dropped down to 4, 5, 2, only a few deaths, 0. There were 0 new deaths per day here, and then this huge peak. So why are deaths coming back in China? And there's so many reasons, but this is just what the data are showing us. And this is why China, who were initially in that green region a while back, have gone right back into this rapid growth phase. Something's happening in China causing new COVID-19 deaths. Germany also showed a very similar behavior where we had a peak and then it dropped down, and we thought, what if it were just to keep dropping down this orange curve, this death rate curve? But instead, it bottomed here at about 181 new deaths per day, and now they're up higher than they were before, 256 deaths day over day on April 16th, and then dropping down quite a bit. And I hope that they drop down and go to 0 as quickly as possible. The Netherlands showed very similar behavior, a peak and then a trough and then another peak almost as high as the initial peak. And what this means is that the flattening of the curve is taking longer to happen. When we see this behavior of the death rate going up and then down and then back up, it means that the death rate, the flattening of the blue curve is not happening as we wanted to see. And you can see it if you look carefully at Sweden. You see that there are many different inflection points in this blue curve where it's going up rather steeply, and then it tables off here around April 11th, and we think, yep, it's going to keep on dropping, and then it comes right back up again and gets very steep. So these are graphs that are available. They're updated every few hours throughout the day. I will be giving these videos and hopefully going to LinkedIn Live fairly soon so that these will be broadcast every morning. We're going to talk about the trends. We see United States going down now. What is that? Where is that curve going? Where is that orange curve going? And day over day, if anything like what happens in France happens to the United States, we want to be able to report that so that we can understand that what we've done in the past is having a great effect on what's happening in the future. These deaths are lagging the number of new cases, but they're the most measurable statistic we have, and that's why we're going with deaths rather than cases. We're taking out this effect of testing. So today I showed the total deaths where countries stand in terms of slow versus rapid versus then again slow at the top growth. We talked about some of the countries that are out of this rapid growth, some of the countries like Sweden that appeared to be out but are now back in this rapid growth phase. And we showed a place to come look at the raw data and start to understand how countries are faring with the deaths related to COVID-19. In one of the future episodes over the next couple of days, we're going to look specifically at the states within the United States. And we're going to look at what happens to the total number of deaths when this sort of behavior happens. What's happening in Italy here, where the flattening of the curve is being delayed, where this orange curve isn't dropping as quickly as possible. What is that doing to the actual death rate? These are all things for future talks. Have a great day and stay healthy. Thank you very much.